A long time ago, in the peaceful village of Ai, there was a young woman named Naya who was the first daughter of King Soro and Queen Tana. At 27 years old, unlike her three younger sisters, Naya was unmarried because of her body size. She was not getting any suitors because she was extremely fat. Some villagers began to sing mocking songs about her during their evening gatherings by the village well, and the issue of her weight was always on the lips of gossips. Some of them would say, I heard that they tie three wrappers so it can go around her waist. Others would say, did you hear that she finished one whole goat in a day? King Soro and his wife were troubled about their daughter's weight. They often had whispered discussions late into the night, wondering how they could help her. Several times they tried to set up arranged marriages for her with neighboring chiefs, but nobody was interested. Naya, on the other hand, had given up on herself because she was so addicted to food that she could not imagine becoming slim in her lifetime. She believed marriage would probably not be an option for her. She thought any man that agreed to marry her would be doing it for her royal status and not because he loved her. And Naya had always desired to be truly loved by whoever she married. Although she was generally unhappy with her life, she was able to find a bit of happiness from dancing. Naya was a fantastic dancer, known in her childhood for outshining her peers at festivals before her weight became a topic of ridicule. Oftentimes, she would hide in her dimly lit hut, humming traditional songs, and begin to dance to the beats she made from her mouth. Whenever there were festivals, Naya would look for a lonely spot behind the towering baobab trees, close enough to hear the music, and dance to her heart's content. She was always hiding because she did not want anyone to mock her joyful movements. Well, it was the end of another successful year, and it was time for the annual festival between the four neighboring villages. As usual, everyone was vibrating with excitement. Some people could not wait to showcase their best embroidered dresses, passed down through generations. Some polished their dancing steps and practiced endlessly with their musical instruments in the moonlight, while others could not wait to enjoy the variety of spicy meals that would be served on that day. Naya, on the other hand, was only interested in finding a lonely spot that would give her the freedom to express her dancing steps without the sting of judgmental eyes. Finally, she found a secluded spot near the edge of the village where she could hear the drums and flutes clearly. The sound of the wind rustling through the tall grass added to the rhythm. Then she began to dance with a wide grin on her face, her bare feet tapping against the cool earth. However, she soon noticed the sound of a drum becoming louder and louder, but she ignored it because she was engrossed in her dancing. Suddenly, the festival music stopped, but the sound of the drum continued, echoing through the night. She immediately turned her back and saw a man playing the drum with a huge smile on his face. The man stopped playing and asked, why did you stop dancing? Naya immediately began running, her sandals slipping off her feet as she moved, and the man followed her. But because she was too heavy to run fast, he caught up with her near a small wooden bridge. Leave me alone, she said, panting and clutching a tree for support. Go and look for your comedic relief somewhere else. The man looked at her kindly, wondering why she thought she was a joke to him. I got lost trying to get to the market square, and I was trying to find my way when I saw you dancing over there, so I decided to support you with my drums, he said, adjusting his brightly patterned sash. Naya took a better look at the intricate designs on his attire, and realized that he wasn't from her community. She thanked the man for drumming for her, then directed him to the market square, pointing to the flickering lanterns in the distance. But the man insisted that he would rather continue to play for her. Without Naya's approval, he began to drum again, urging her to dance. When Naya saw that he was not going to give up, she began making small hip movements to the tune of his beat, her spirit lifting as she forgot her insecurities for a moment. After all, what did she have to lose? He was a stranger she would never meet again, and she had the opportunity to dance like she always wanted. After a long while, Naya stopped dancing, her chest heaving as she caught her breath. "Thank you, Mr. Drum. I really enjoyed myself," she said to him. "My name is Danny, not Mr. Drummer," he answered with a bow. Naya told him her name, then said she had to return home before the night grew colder, but Danny pleaded with her to come back the next day, his eyes bright with sincerity. After a moment's hesitation, Naya agreed. On her way home, Naya thought about the man, his kindness, and the warmth in his smile. She wondered why he was so nice to her, and even wanted to spend more time with her. "Of course he's not attracted to me," she thought to herself as she walked through the quiet village paths, lit only by the glow of fireflies. To Naya's understanding, it was unusual for such a handsome man to like her. All night, as she lay on her straw-filled mat, she couldn't stop thinking about him. But she tried her best not to get too excited. In the evening of the following day, Naya set out to meet her new friend Danny. She wore her favorite green wrapper, the one her mother said brought out the brightness of her eyes. When Danny set his eyes on her, he was so excited that he almost dropped the drum he was holding. Naya was equally excited to see him. They talked for a long time under the shade of a large neem tree, learning about each other's lives. Danny told her stories of his village, the festivals he had attended, and the music he loved so much. Naya shared her love for dancing and how it brought her happiness even when the world seemed cruel. Afterwards, Danny drummed for Naya to dance. The gentle rhythm of his beat made her feel as though she were floating, and for a moment she forgot about the villagers' ridicule. Days turned into weeks, and they kept on meeting each other at their secret spot. To both of them, it was always the best time of their day. Danny began bringing small gifts for Naya, colorful beads, fragrant flowers, and even sweet-smelling herbs he claimed were good for her health. Naya began to feel special, and her laughter grew louder and more carefree. Finally, one evening, as the fireflies began to gather and the crickets sang their evening songs, Danny told Naya how he felt about her. Although Naya had suspected he liked her, she did not want to jump to any conclusions. But she was happy when he finally voiced it out because she felt the same way too. "I can come with my people on the next market day to see your parents," he said, his voice steady and filled with determination. So the ball was set rolling. Naya quickly informed her parents that a man from the next village would come to ask for her hand in marriage. The king and queen were overjoyed. They never knew a day like this would come. Queen Tana hugged her daughter tightly, tears of happiness streaming down her face. But unfortunately, calamity soon struck. A week before the arranged meeting, an airborne disease spread around the entire 4 villages and their surroundings. To prevent people from spreading the disease, Each village closed their borders, and their rulers also instructed them to stay indoors. Naya was very sad that her future husband would not be able to see her every day as usual. To make matters worse, some days after the borders were closed, Naya contracted the airborne disease. For more than 3 months, she struggled to stay alive. The once lively hut where she and Dani had made plans now echoed with silence. The illness greatly affected her appetite, making it very difficult for her to finish even half a plate of food in a day. The village herbalist worked tirelessly, creating herbal mixtures to ease the symptoms, but progress was slow. As the months went by, a cure was finally found, and people gradually began to recover. When Naya fully recovered, the first thing she discovered was her massive weight loss. She could not believe it. She was almost as small as her three sisters. It was a dream come true. That wasn't the only thing that changed. Her face had also become more defined, and her beauty was evident for even the blind to see. She realized that wherever she went, men stared at her in admiration, their gazes lingering in a way they never had before. The wealthy men amongst them also began to approach her with flattering words and conversations about marriage. Naya began to feel on top of the world, and all of a sudden, she felt too good for Dani. When the borders were finally opened, Naya went to their spot to wait for him, her new beaded anklets jingling as she walked. She knew he would definitely be there waiting. When Danny set his eyes on her, he almost did not recognize her. "Wow, my princess! I missed your beautiful smile," he said, his voice warm with affection. Naya gave him the cold shoulder, her expression unreadable. She felt too mighty to be in his presence. Danny thought she was only acting up because she had missed him so much, so he began to play the drum for her to dance. But she shouted at him, her voice sharp and cutting through the quiet evening. "Mr. Drummer, I am not interested in whatever you are playing. I only came here to tell you that I am not interested in marrying you anymore." Danny was alarmed at her change in behavior, his hands frozen mid-beat. "I know you have never been with a princess before. That is why you're always smiling like a goat," she said cruelly. She stormed out of the place, her footsteps heavy on the dusty ground, warning him never to reach out to her as they did not belong to the same caliber. Weeks passed, and Danny kept sending messengers to Naya, hoping she would have a change of heart. But she ignored all of them. Instead, she was entertaining the long line of men who were now vying for her attention. Suitors from different villages brought gifts, golden bracelets, richly embroidered fabrics, and exotic spices to win her favor. One day, Naya came up with an idea that she believed would make her decision easier. She decided to host a wrestling competition for the eligible bachelors in the village, and anyone who emerged as the winner would be crowned as her suitor. The competition was set, and the news spread far and wide, reaching even the distant hills. A lot of men signed up to win the heart of Naya, the first daughter of the great King Soro. The king, proud of his daughter's newfound confidence, even invited royalties and affluent people for the event. Naya decided to stay indoors for the next 4 months to receive the best beauty treatments to wow her suitors. She soaked in herbal baths, adorned herself with oils, and wore elegant robes, believing this would secure her image as the ultimate prize. However, she failed to recognize that it was the illness that had made her slimmer. Her old eating habits remained the same, so while Naya was indoors, she continued eating her large portions, and day by day, the weight began to pile on again. Servants discreetly whispered about her growing size, but no one dared to tell her the truth. When the 4 months had elapsed, Naya had returned to her previous size. She was devastated when she looked in the mirror and saw her reflection. All the suitors she had hoped to impress with her beauty would now see her as the same Naya they had once ignored. She tried her best to cancel the event, pleading with her father to reconsider, but King Sorrow refused. "I'm sure you will find a suitor regardless of your present situation," he said, his voice calm but firm. On the day of the event, the village square was buzzing with activity. Warriors, farmers, traders, and many eligible bachelors gathered, ready to showcase their strength. The aroma of grilled meat and spiced drinks filled the air as villagers chatted excitedly. However, when Naya was called out to greet her visitors, the mood shifted. The men stared at her in shock, their excitement dimming. She wasn't what they had bargained for, and one by one they began to walk away, their footsteps echoing as they returned to their homes. Naya had never been so humiliated in her life. Tears stung her eyes as she turned to leave the square in shame, her heart heavy with regret. Just as she was about to retreat into the crowd, her eyes caught a familiar figure standing near the edge of the square. It was Danny, but this wasn't the Danny she remembered. He was dressed like royalty, wearing a richly adorned robe that shimmered under the sunlight, and his posture exuded confidence and grace. He was surrounded by guards, their polished weapons gleaming, and the people around him whispered in awe. For a moment, their eyes locked. Danny's expression was unreadable, but Naya could sense his quiet disappointment. Before she could say anything, a voice interrupted their gaze. "My prince, your father is ready to leave now," one of the guards announced, bowing slightly. Naya froze. Just like her, Danny was royalty. His father was the king of one of the 4 villages, but because of his love for music, he often disguised himself to play his drum among commoners during festivals. He had chosen to live simply and connect with people through his art rather than flaunting his status. As Naya watched Danny turn his back and begin to walk away, a wave of realization washed over her. She had lost a good man who had loved her for who she was, not for how she looked. It was such a pity because she never got the opportunity to find love again. Eventually, Naya settled as the 10th wife of an old chief, a man who valued her for her royal lineage rather than her heart. The moral lesson of this story is that you should never neglect those who were there for you when you were at your worst. These types of people are getting quite rare these days, and if you treat them unfairly, you might never get the opportunity to be in their lives anymore. Thank you for joining me today to hear this heartfelt story. Remember, the people who stand by us during our toughest moments are treasures we should never take for granted. Let this story inspire us to value kindness, loyalty, and true connections. Loyalty and true connections. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more meaningful stories. Until next time, take care and stay inspired.